We're checking for. Hello, hello. Welcome everybody. Crypto Talk with Brianna and Scott. I'm Scott. Hi Brianna, how you doing today?
Hey Scott, I'm fantastic. Hey everyone. Thanks for being here today. Should we just get into it? So
Yeah, what do you
I'll
got?
share a little bit about what I'm going to bring forth today. So months ago, you and I and the crypto community expressing concerns about the lack of transparency with regulations, saying it would push companies offshore, possibly. I think you and I were kind of like, I don't know if that will happen. But we now have a major centralized exchange who has registered to operate out of a different country. Which one is it? We will find out. Also, I'll be sharing my top altcoin darling. I will reveal my top pick. And then if we get to it, we have somebody who has just announced that they are running for president, who is a Bitcoin proponent, and he will be getting my vote, not just because he's pro-crypto, but because I deeply respect this person so much. They've dedicated their entire life to both exposing corruption along with taking many of these just big giants to court and holding them accountable. So who is it, if you have any guesses? But he's going to get my vote. So I'm excited for this. How about you,
Wow.
Scott? How are you?
I'm good. Thanks. That's some good stuff. That is some really I'm interested in all that stuff and I don't know the answers to any of it. Let's see. Today I've got let's see. So we've got what was this one? Oh, so the EU came out with some crypto legislation. We'll talk about that a little bit, and I think that's a good thing. A little bit more about I don't know. We need to create like a title for this. Like Gary's faux pas or Gensler's quips or something, because he's always got something crazy to say about crypto, and it's just hilarious. Solana is the first blockchain to come out with carbon neutral, no, not neutral, but carbon statistics to know how carbon neutral they are, whatever. So we'll talk about that a little bit. What else have I got here? We're going to talk about, I got some crypto memes. I got some memes in today. And then a little bit more on just some SEC stuff. So, yeah, I don't have anything too exciting today. Bitcoin. I'm going to talk a little bit about Bitcoin and the greed and the fear and greed index and where that is today. So, in fact, why don't we just start off with that? It's kind of interesting. Let me pop this on. Crypto was up last week, and it hit 28,000, and everybody was pretty happy about that. And then this week, it's been down, right? So it drops below 28K, and I think at least for me, I was like, okay, I kind of expected this. I kind of think that this is how the year is going to go. We're going to go up a little bit, and we're going to get all excited, and then it's going to go down. And I think ultimately, I just think we're going to go sideways, for most of the year. But it's a really interesting. I think it's just really interesting time because if you mix AI into the mix, which you have to, it's just so prevalent. You just can't turn on anything or read anything without AI in it, right? And AI and crypto or I kind of look at it like this. It seemed like the last couple years, 3 years maybe, it's been all about crypto. It's kind of the new tech, kind of new interesting thing, and now it's all about AI. And I think the two are still the two hot tech topics. But you also have robotics in there, and I've been seeing the coolest robot kind of videos and stuff. I don't know if you saw 60 Minutes had a pretty good article on or a expose on Google, and I just watched that actually last night, the recording of it, and it's got this cool little scene of these kind of little mini robots. I don't know, they're probably about 4 or 5 feet tall, maybe 3 feet tall, and they were on this little soccer pitch, and there was two of them. They were playing soccer against each other, and they didn't teach these robots how to play soccer. I don't know what they gave them, but they learned how to play soccer on their own. And it was interesting how it would kick it, and it would learn at first, and it showed some pictures at first. The robots had no clue what to do. They were just wandering around, the field, and there's this ball, and eventually they just learned how to kick it and how, if they fell down, how to stay upright and how to maneuver the mechanical foot to kick the ball. And pretty soon they were just scoring all the time. And, when you start thinking about now, you've got, of course, that's what AI does. It kind of learns on its own, or certain versions of AI, right? And now it's put into these little robots, and, that's the stuff that it's amazing. I thought, we're going to be way down the road for that. So anyways, AI and crypto are I think the two hot topics, but I guess where I was going with that is, so we were all excited last week, and now it's all about AI and this week, and crypto's kind of going sideways. And but this one basically says the seeds for the slump were sown last week when the U.S. Federal Reserve hinted at one more quarter point interest rate hikes in the upcoming May policy meeting. I don't know. That's probably as good a guess as anything. I think, like I said, I think this is the way it's going to be all year. And I have been listening to a lot of macro podcasts and so on, and I think, we're still going to try to figure out this recession thing, what that looks like. And it's so funny to me because in some parts of the world or the economy, it doesn't feel like a recession at all. And yet, if you look at kind of a little bit deeper into the real estate market, especially commercial real estate, that's really, really scary. If you think about apparently Manhattan, the most expensive and largest commercial real estate probably in the world, apparently there are whole buildings that are completely vacant in just prime real estate, partly due to COVID, and the workers haven't returned to the real estate spaces. So apparently this is all sort of catching up now. And I don't know, by the end of the year, maybe next year, I think there could be some really crazy stuff going on in the real estate market. So we've got that, to deal with. And interest rates, right? They're not, we don't know really where they stand. I mean, they're going up or down, or what's the Fed going to do? And then inflation, where does that sit? So lots of unknowns. So I do think we're going to go sideways. This was the fear and greed index. Crypto fear and greed index. It was 69 last week, I guess, before Bitcoin dropped down, and it's 50 now. So that pretty much says it right there. We're going sideways. We're at 50. We're neutral, and it's just an interesting time because, it's not all doom and gloom. We're past last year, right? Hopefully, of the crypto doom and gloom, and we had this nice little bump at the beginning of the year, and now we're just we're going to do this. I think for most of the year, but we've got AI that's coming online. It's fascinating, interesting. I'm interested to see how AI connects to crypto and what comes out of that. And yeah, so I just wanted to bring that one up. Talk a little about the markets. Yeah, ETH is back down below 2,000. I was getting pretty excited about ETH, and we had the upgrade last week, and things were going pretty good. I was actually going to try and trade my first trades on ETH just to learn more about trading, and I kind of pulled back. And but it's good now, because now that ETH is kind of moving up and down, I can apply some of my charting to it and see what's it doing. And that's all I'm really doing yet. I'm not going to probably put any money in there yet, but ETH is one I think I want to trade, or at least mark up and see if I want to trade. But anyways, okay, what do you got? Let's pop over to you and see what you got today.
Okay. All right. So here we go. It's unveiled. Coinbase. Let me get this bigger here. Coinbase gets Bermuda license. Offshore exchange could launch next week. So here we are. Did you see this coming?
Maybe a little bit. I mean, we'll see what happens. But go ahead.
Okay, so United States cryptocurrency exchange Coinbase has received the license to operate in Bermuda and is reportedly set to launch a derivatives exchange based there as soon as next week. And Coinbase cited clear regulations as the reason why they chose Bermuda. It was chosen as one of our financial hubs, and explained its regulatory environment is long known for a high level of rigor, transparency, compliance, and cooperation. Some from the crypto community believe the latest development could be the beginning of the end for Coinbase in the US, as it comes just days after Brian Armstrong disclosed at a fintech event in London that the exchange might consider leaving the US due to the lack of regulatory clarity. Oh, that's my meme. I'm not going to show it yet. So, yeah, just very interesting. I know that when you and I talked a couple of months ago, I don't know, it seems like a whirlwind. I don't know how long ago it was. After the fall of FTX, there was just a lot of talk, worry about these crypto companies moving offshore and how that will put the United States behind, kind of back, and set them back, as well as just it will hold up innovation. And at that time, I didn't think that we would reach this point. With Coinbase, especially, we know Brian Armstrong has tried to, I think he's pretty wise about the way he goes about not having just direct conflict, at least in his words, against the SEC, keeping it respectful, but also pointing out their flaws and making it known that there is just a pure lack, there's some sort of disconnect, a lack of transparency that is there, that clearly exists. Where that disconnect is, it's kind of pushed off to the side when it comes to Gary Gensler and anything that he has to respond to when it comes to that subject. So it's really interesting. But I think this was a good move for Coinbase. Whether or not they'll move completely overseas, I don't know if I think that will happen. Would they if they had to? I think so, and I think that's why they're getting established now. Any thoughts on that?
So I'm not that surprised at all about this. It's interesting, but I also don't know really what this means, because it's going to be derivatives only, I think, for now. I think that's what that means. And, I don't really mess with that, so I'm not sure exactly, what that means. And the question is, I just want to know, for me, again, as a small retail investor, how long will I be able to use Coinbase as my on and off ramp? And if they move everything to Bermuda or whatever, then what does that mean? If they close down, the US or whatever, what does that mean for me as a retail investor? Also, what else? I guess I'm thinking, this kind of dovetails into my next article I want to talk about, and that is just regulation, in general. And, we know we've talked about on the show that there's a concerted effort by the U.S. government, certainly by the SEC, to crack down. And it's interesting because can a company like Coinbase just up and leave, go be in Bermuda, and still be the same company that they are now? Will they have enough customers? Will it? That's what I wonder. It's like, because if they believe they can and not lose money or lose customers or whatever, then why the hell not, right? Why mess with this stuff or whatever? And my article is about the EU, and again, I don't understand it fully, but it looks like the EU is trying to put some regulations, what am I trying to say? They're basically at least putting some rules out there that are unique to crypto, which is what we've always wanted in the US, right? Just give us what the rules are. Don't just keep telling us, Gary, that we've got rules, they're securities rules. Comply by these old rules or we're going to come after you. And there's a real impasse right there because I just don't know what's going to happen. Here's what it seems like. The crypto projects that have tried to comply with what Gary's rules are have been denied or have been caught up in the SEC paperwork, right? It doesn't seem like many, if any, crypto projects have gone through that process, done what Gary says, and then come on the other side and be a viable crypto project. Now, there are some examples, some just vague ones, some like really weird ones I don't even have top of my head, but a few projects that did go through it and got the okay to do their thing. I think they're more like smart contracts or very specific crypto projects. The question is, if you're a crypto exchange and they're saying that everything is security and that if you're selling or providing access to sell securities, but you're not registered to do so, then that's illegal. Well, that puts everybody out of business. Coinbase, Kraken, everybody, right? And so it seems to me, though, that that's the issue. And yet I'm not reading anywhere that that's what they're saying. Gary's not saying, hey, you're all out of business or I'm going to sue you all. They're just kind of like picking things. It's very confusing to me, and I think for a lot of just the average retail crypto investor, it's like, what's the deal? It should be simple. Either close them down, and then let's just figure out what step B is, or let them operate. But this gray area that goes on for years and years is just frustrating. And for the exchanges, it's even worse. But it's just like, it just doesn't seem that hard to me. Why is it so hard?
Right. And I think I think that's it. Like, everybody's asking that because I don't know. Maybe what comes to mind to me is that they just are trying to find the most, like, they want to make sure they're not going to make some kind of like rule that lets these centralized exchanges like get away with being able to operate. I don't know, like, I also question too, the more we get through this, is are they going to just really try to run out all of them and have their own type of thing where if you want to go through it, it's going to be kind of run through some kind of centralized exchange that's totally run through
CBDC or something, Yeah, partially, again, as a small retail investor, I don't know if I would care, right? As long as I know I can onboard into crypto, if they took it over and there became one exchange that was run through the government and they basically regulated and said, okay, you are now regulated to allow people to buy or swap, or what do you want to call it, right? Your fiat for certain crypto coins. But it seems like that might happen, and again, as long as I have the option, but it's very likely what it will be is it will limit the number of coins that I could buy, right? Because the rest of them if they're securities. See, this is what I'm afraid of. The process. Think about what it takes to take a company in the U.S. public onto the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ. It's years and years and millions of dollars in lawyers' fees to prepare the documents. I mean, even if you just watch some of these movies, that show and portray, what it takes. Like, I'm trying to think what it was. There was a documentary on WeWork there was a documentary. There's also a show that had actors in it, but it was talking about all the work that they have to do to become a public entity. And there's a lot of shows that document that. And if that's what it takes, then basically what it's going to say is like Polygon and Solana and Avalanche and you name it, Arbitrum, all these projects, Aave, Uniswap would then have to stop doing business and then go through that whole process to become basically a security. Well, how's that going to work? That would shut down the industry. Literally just shut it down. And then maybe a few will get through it. They'll go through the process and then reboot. I mean, I wish, Gary would talk about that and say, and just list out, okay, here's every step it takes to do it. Just be honest with us. Show us. What does it take to become a security in the crypto world? I've never heard him say that it can't happen. All he says is come in and register. Well, what the hell does that mean? I've talked about this before, and that's like, what are we really talking about here? Are we talking about shutting down the crypto industry, getting it refigured out, and then rebooting it into like this new thing that is regulated and they've gone through all the paperwork and now they're just like a stock? I mean, that's the thing. And so what I wonder is he can't be that stupid. He has a game plan. He has, a reasoning that he's saying what he's saying and not saying what he's saying. And, is it completely political? I've heard people say that all he wants to do is, he wants his next political job or whatever. And, or what, really we're talking billions and billions of dollars here based on his decision or their decision. And so what it seems like to me, and this is the frustrating part about politics and everything, is they're just going to kick the can down the road. No one wants to make a decision because it's too hard, it's too mucky, so everybody's just going to posture. And then we have all this, we're here discussing this, and you can hear sort of the frustration in my voice of it because I want clarity because as an investor, I want to know, what I can invest in today, and will that same mechanism be available for me to invest in tomorrow? But if I'm a crypto project and I've got millions of dollars invested in this thing or whatever, just think how they're feeling.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what comes to mind. Think of all the innovation that's being like just stifled due to this, because who's going to want to start something right now with that lack of clarity? That's the frustrating part, is that really things somewhat work themselves out in their own ways when they're not under this full control. But this is just, I think you nailed it, in that there's obviously something else going on here. People don't dodge questions. People don't do that if they know, if they are being transparent, and it's clear that there's that lack of transparency. And, it won't only push companies out of the US, whatever that means. I'm interested to see what happens in these specific countries, such as Bermuda, such as El Salvador, all these ones that really are like taking this on. Maybe that's the place to start looking for real estate. I mean, as the retail investor, I'm not opposed to that, but it's just going to push people out, or people will just comply and go along with it because they've been shut down to be able to do specific things here in the United States. But there's a lot of fight. There's people even within the SEC who we've talked about and mentioned, but there's somebody else now recently too who's just really attacking Gary and his ways and how he's done this and really wanting to get him out of there. So I don't know if that will happen, but at least there's people standing up for it. And yeah,
there are. And I sort of get this feeling, or I read this somewhere, that there's this sense that there are a growing number of Congress people that are rallying around crypto, or at least they're seeing that what the SEC is doing, there's something fishy going on, so that is interesting. And I kind of like that because in the end, the way I see it is regulators can only regulate, and regulations leaves a lot of holes. It's like the only mechanism they really have is to sue you, where if you have a law that's passed by Congress, it's just much more cut and dry, right? So we'd rather see laws actually And they're also, to get a law passed, they have to go through a lot of dialogue, right? And there's a lot of people involved. So it's not just one guy or one entity that's trying to make these decisions. So I think that that's good. It's just, that's a slow process. Yeah. Yeah. So Anthony popped in here and said, yeah, sounds like another scare tactic to me. Kind of like the China scares. Yeah, I think so, Anthony. I think that, I think you're right. I think that it's possible that the SEC, all they can do is try to just scare people, right? Now they can sue and they can drag people through the process, but again, that's probably a multi-year thing, you know. So it just, to me, that just doesn't seem efficient for anybody. Yeah, I don't know. Let's pop over to my laptop here and take a look at this, because this is interesting. It dovetails into what we're talking about in the EU. So as U.S. lawmakers struggle to reach consensus over approach to crypto rules, their counterparts in Europe have blessed a piece of digital asset legislation that forms the most comprehensive attempt to regulate the sector of any developed global economy. It's called MICA, M-I-C-A. And I think what's interesting about this is maybe, maybe this is something that will be good. I don't know enough about it to know if it's a good thing. If it's a good thing, or at least it's a fair thing, then maybe we can start to push this and say, look, the EU has this. Let's just adopt what they have. I don't know. At least it's some rules. What else does it say here? It says MICA requires that any company offering crypto-related services in the EU to register in one of its member states, receiving permissions that can turn to be passported across the entire block. So you can think of it as getting 27 countries for the price of one. So that's cool. Major European financial watchdogs will be in charge of making sure crypto firms comply with the rules, including that they've got adequate risk management and governance processes in place to avoid another FTX-style collapse. Okay, so that to me is the key statement, because that's what Gary Gensler should be worried about, is just protecting us in the uniqueness of what crypto has to offer. So we want crypto projects to flourish, get out there and provide these new services, these new financial services in crypto on the blockchain. But as we know, there can be shysters like the FTX and some of these banks that are doing things that harm individuals. That's what we don't want, Gary Gensler. That's what you should be protecting. And here, to me, this just seems like such a cop-out, like such a lazy view of it. Like, oh, I don't want to sit around and work on hashing out new rules for crypto. I don't want to do that. You just abide by these old rules that are for stocks and securities. Instead of what the UE is trying to do, from what I read here, it's basically saying, or what I see is that, yeah, we're going to make sure that you don't harm individuals by some of your practices. And we're going to look into it and make sure that happens. We're not saying you have to be a security or register as a security. We're saying, do your thing, be a crypto project, but let's watch this and make sure that individuals don't get burned. That makes perfect sense. Why is that so fucking hard?
Right.
That should be it.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's actually making some progress where it's not just taking full control or just the lack thereof. And then, yeah, seems like it is like that. That's going on many places, even with Coinbase going over to Bermuda. It's like that seems pretty easy. They just did it. So I don't know what the holdup is. I mean, I have my assumptions and my guesses, but
well, it really is. It's just really it's sad. U.S. I still think is the greatest country in the world. It has so many great things, but this is just messed up. And it's funny because I had given up on really diving into politics years and years ago because of all this stuff, and this is just bringing it all back because now I'm invested in this concept of crypto and boy, it's just ugly all the politics involved in it. And it seems like it's easy, it's like, I don't know. Now, the interesting thing about this is that it says MICA doesn't cover digital asset staking or lending. So this is just the very beginning, which is good. This is what I like. I wish the U.S. would at least take a little piece of it and show that they're making progress, doing something unique, not just saying the same thing again over and over. Oh, come in and register, right? So, But is it interesting because to me the staking and lending part, that was the FTX, that was the Genesis, that was that whole area that got really gray and collapsed on itself. So it kind of makes sense. There's probably a lot of stickiness to that, or it they've got to dive in and really look at the details of that. But to me, again, as a retail investor, this is where I've always said, look, I was never wiring money to one of these pseudo banks, crypto banks, or whatever, like Genesis or FTX or whatever, and they would invest it into these and tell me that they're going to give me a certain return. No, I was going through centralized exchanges that were regulated to become exchanges, taking my little $1,000, putting into that, and buying some Bitcoin, custodying it in my own self wallet. Something pretty darn simple. Something that is not complicated. I was dealing with the blockchain. Everything was pretty clear, cut and dry. But then you had these entities that were doing all this non-blockchain related sort of what I call closed door, backdoor office kind of stuff. And they're the ones that got in trouble and collapsed. And we're all suffering for it, trying to just follow the rules and use the blockchain, which is decentralized and open, where everybody can see what's going on. And so, that to me is not that hard. Doesn't even need to be regulated that much, because the protocols, the rules are right out there in front of everybody, right? The smart contract does this and does that. And if you have your own wallet, like in the MetaMask wallet, it tells you before every transaction, it pops up a message and says, this is what's going to happen. Do you agree? Do you sign this transaction? And you click it and you sign it. Now, it seems pretty cut and dry to me. I mean, they've told me what can happen, and they told me what's going to happen, and then I get to agree or not to agree. Agree. Everything is open. And then once I click that, yes, that's on the blockchain for everyone to see. This is the magic that people don't understand. And really, if you don't do it, if you're one of these people, and I shouldn't say it like that, but it's like, if you want to take advantage of the crypto opportunities and good yield, then get your hands dirty. Don't go through these banks and that say, hey, I'll invest your money and I'll invest it in the crypto, and you don't have to worry about all the detail. I get it. That's how human nature is. But don't come whining when you lose your money because you didn't understand. That was part of the deal. This is why, to me, I'm so passionate about almost what I sort of call the basic decentralized blockchain crypto investor. To me, it's pure and it's all mine, and all the responsibility for what happens is on me. And if I can't hack it and can't handle it, then that's my issue, right? But MetaMask is telling me everything it's going to do. Every contract that I get into, they disclose on the website what's going to happen if I put my money in there in a decentralized DeFi protocol. And it's up to me. So, I don't know. To me, that's like, why do you have to even regulate that? It's like everybody's up front with it.
I think that's part of the paradigm shift. And that's part of that's the essence of decentralized finance, and where people, it's the shift from reliance and dependence and control over to ownership and responsibility. And when you take ownership, then you learn your lessons either the hard way, or you just find success in which is never going to happen 100% of the time. But it's always that learning lesson, no matter whether you're losing something or not. But that's how you can become more intelligent, right? Not being totally babysat throughout the whole thing. And it even goes to show with this whole, another example of this is where Gary Gensler he's getting people, he got Kim Kardashian, a couple of these other celebrities who are pumping coins or whatever it may be. And he's also facing some backlash as well himself right now, because he was caught in an interview in the past, or it was something, he was speaking an event, and it had to do with Algorand, which is out of MIT, and that's where Gary, he was studying and doing his whole stuff there as well on the blockchain, learning all of that, and I think teaching it as well.
Yeah, he taught it.
Right?
Yeah,
and he's pumping in his words, Algorand. And so, which was in the past, but I mean, it's the same thing as going back to any of these people, at some point we have to look and be like, okay, like there's going to be people who are just talking about something because they're excited about it. They might be fully in and passionate about it, or there may be people who are being paid, whatever. That's what every advertisement is in front of us. I mean, on wherever you go. It's just kind of up to the person. And if, like you said, you can't handle it, it just might not be for you.
Yeah, and that brings up that whole thing. I was reading about Shaq, right? That they're trying to serve him. SEC's been trying to serve him, and he's been dodging them or whatever. And then finally, he got served, I guess, or whatever. And what I think what they're saying is that he got paid to do an FTX commercial, and I guess that the issue is this, and this is the same thing I think with Kim Kardashian and the other celebrities, was that I don't think they disclosed to the government how much they got paid, which is interesting because they have to pay taxes. So that's what I like. I don't think they're talking about that they didn't pay taxes. I think that there must be some other piece of documentation that if you're being paid, that's what it is. That's what it is. If it's a security, you have to. I think there's something you have to file with them. It's like, yeah, I was paid to promote this security, and so again, all of this FTX. Well, whatever, was it a token? Was it a security? Was it whatever? There's no rules. We don't know necessarily.
It wasn't
right?
established, right?
Right. Other than Gary saying, well, if it's not legally gone through the system, then I guess it wasn't. So that's why it's illegal. But that's just so nuanced and so out there and so not fair. I mean, and I shouldn't feel sorry for Shaq, but I kind of do. It's like, this just sucks. The guy's doing his job. People pay people for their worth, and Shaq's this big celebrity. He should be paid for, being on TV. He gets paid for every other thing. That I guess because it's this unregistered security that he was promoting, now they're gonna take him and Kim Kardashian and the other guys to court for that. And I just think it is so unfair, almost childish in the way that is. And there's other people like Paul Pierce, another NBA basketball player that was on some sort of advertising, some other different coin or whatever. I can't remember what it was, and he settled out of court, paid millions of dollars, and I think even Kim Kardashian settled and paid, millions of dollars or whatever. And so it's just like, I wish they wouldn't have, I wish they'd have fought it, but I get it. It's like, well, I don't want to hassle with that. I don't want to have to go to court and all this. I just want to be done with it. Unfortunately, that muddies the water because, I don't know. The whole thing is absolutely ridiculous. And it's funny how it offshoots all these different things. And then you've got, I hadn't really heard that specifically. It is interesting. It makes sense to me. I know he was at a FIT. I didn't know he was like touting Algorand, because I wish, people could find that documentation and put that all over Twitter,
It just
whatever.
came out. This was a very recent thing. So.
Okay. Well, it's really interesting because if there can even be a hint that he was trying to promote anything to do with a crypto, oh my God, we should just grill the hell out of him with that.
Well, and we know that he has a specific number. I think it was like 45 billion or something. I don't know. I could be wrong on that figure. That he's trying to obtain and collect to be able to go after DeFi. I mean, that's something that I remember seeing a headline for. So it's like he's gonna pick at all of these things where he can get like, oh, Kim Kardashian, okay, 5 million there, oh, Shaquille O'Neal, like let's take a couple million from him, I mean,
what's the point? In the end, these little nitpicky things that they're doing and suing and doing these little things, they're not making the difference. They're not going to like what's his aim at really what is his reasoning like doing this? Does he think that everyone will be so scared that all of a sudden they're all going to fall in line? Of course not. This is just fear and chaos and disruption that is being created by one of our government officials, and it's disgusting, And I challenge anybody to come and tell me one good thing that's happening out of what Gary's doing. Just give me something. I'm a pretty reasonable person. If you just give me some reasoning or end goal or anything good that can come out of what he's doing, I just don't see it. But I would totally entertain that.
True that.
What do you got next? You got anything next?
Okay, well, since we're kind of on this topic, let's just go straight over to politics.
Oh, your man. That's right. I should have guessed this. Your man, Robert F. I should have guessed. That's
Robert
right.
F. Kennedy Jr. So he announced his run for president. He announced this a week or two ago, and we're finally now seeing some, I've kind of checked on it regularly, and now there's some positive articles because they're coming out of the mainstream. You're not going to find anything positive in the mainstream media, just forewarning. So Robert F. Kennedy Jr., nephew of former President John F. Kennedy, officially announced his candidacy for President of the States. He'll run for the Democratic nomination, attempting to prevail over the current leader of Joe Biden. So interesting, Democratic. That threw me there. I was surprised, but that's actually, I think, a pretty good move. He's presented himself as a supporter of Bitcoin, claiming it could offer people an escape route amid the financial turbulence caused by the Federal Reserve's actions. He goes into this a little bit further.
I love that statement.
So while he said, and he's an environmental lawyer, and he is on it. I follow his platform really closely. Listen to their podcasts. I'm really, really into it. But he says that he won't be an ideal presidential candidate. Nonetheless, he vowed to end the corruption and corporate feudalism that remains an obstacle in the world's strongest economy. He recently claimed that the U.S. Federal Reserve had partnered with multiple banking institutions between 2008 and 2022 to print a colossal amount of money. In his view, the policy could cause an additional financial imbalance in the future, pointing out Bitcoin as an asset that could serve as a lifeboat to Americans. And here he is. Cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin give the public an escape route from the splatter zone when this bubble invariably bursts. So the White House is colluding with the banksters to keep us all trapped in the bubble of profiteering and control.
That's really good. I'll have to look into more of him. I haven't looked into him a little bit. Some of his stances on things a little bit out there for me. But this one, I'm right on. So I'm going to definitely start looking into him a little bit more. And those statements are great. Wow, that's great. That's good. So,
all right, what else do you got?
Mr. Kennedy in office. That'd be interesting. Let's see. Yeah, what else?
I would love to see it. I would love to see it.
Oh, okay. So here is. Let me pull this up. So this is a. Oh, come on now. Oh, bummer. I'm trying to pull up the this Solana climate change thing. I think it would fit in perfect now, but the page is not working.
I would love to see that. I didn't think that Solana was going to be, that it was end game for Solana following the FTX thing, but I know a lot of people who did, who took some big losses there when Solana was falling. I haven't really looked to see where its price is at. Is it like recovered fully? Have you paid attention or?
Not a lot, but it had recovered quite a bit. Yeah, it was actually in the first of the year. It was one of the big winners in the first of the year. So it's definitely back as a project. Yeah, so I got it up here. It's definitely up back as a project. I don't really know. The phone just came out again, and we talked about the phone a long time ago, right? The phone is actually out there. Yeah, so it's out. All right, it's going to come out here in a month or so, but I think you can buy it now, which will be interesting. Okay, so they're using this as a marketing tool, saying that they're the first blockchain that's now going to publicly put out these numbers about what their carbon footprint is, and I haven't really even looked at this, so we can kind of look at it together. But let's see. So it's going to show its total energy consumption, its carbon emissions, total marginal carbon emissions. Okay, so I think this is a good step. Hopefully others will follow. I don't know enough about the detail to know what's good or bad or whatever. Do you know much about carbon emissions and carbon footprints and that kind of stuff?
I know that it's a very controversial topic.
Okay,
I
why is
think,
that?
well, there's a lot of people who just disagree on the impacts
Yeah.
and the causes, all of that. There's just a lot. Whether it's kind of used as a weapon, that may be weaponized, the idea of all of it. Not that there's not any truth and validity to it, but I think that there's just this big split, and it's kind of a controversial subject these days.
Well, let me ask your opinion because I think you probably follow this a little bit more than I do. Although I am interested in it, and that is so this carbon footprint. There's a calculation. This is how I see it. There's a calculation, right? That how much energy or that the average human uses, and that you can connect that to how much carbon goes into the atmosphere, which that controversial part is, does it cause climate change or not, whatever. But there is this calculation that they can say that each human contributes so much to this. That being said, if now that they can calculate that, there are tokens out there. There are projects out there. I have a really good friend who is really into this sort of impact NFT kind of projects, that you can buy these tokens that the money then goes to offset carbon emissions. And the way I think it works is that you buy these tokens and the money that goes to technology or companies that reduce the carbon in our environment, right? So if there's carbon reducing, what's the word, equipment that can go on, say the smokestacks or something of a factory and reduce the carbon, this kind of money will fund that, or fund businesses that create that kind of equipment, or something to that effect. Does that make sense to
Yeah,
you?
I see what you're saying, and I actually had an article about this because there's more and more people, or there's more and more mining rigs that are going into. There was one I actually had an article on that I was going to bring forth today. It's like in between these two volcanoes, there's all this stuff going. I see that like these
Yeah.
natural sources of energy. So, and I follow what you're saying.
Yeah, so I think that's a really interesting. It's something that I want to look into more. In fact, I'm going to have a call with my friend later today, and she actually traveled the world going around talking about different NFT projects and impact projects, and we'll send each other articles when we see something that has to do with this kind of thing. And I had just sent her one the other day about this, and it's interesting because there are crypto projects, and you buy the tokens, and then that money. Oh, I know what it was. She's actually speaking at an event in California at the end of May, and she does her thing is gaming, crypto gaming, or play to learn instead of play to earn, play to learn, and so to helping kids get into technology and get into crypto, and because they're games and they can kind of it's fun for them, but they're learning and they're also earning as they're playing these games. So I think she calls it ed tech or something like that. And so the conference she's speaking at, if you buy a ticket or you spend like $250, $300, you get into the conference free, and then that money actually goes to a token that then goes to offsetting carbon emissions. So I don't know. There's a lot to it. It's kind of complicated. I'm not fully into it, but I think it's really cool. It's a cool way that crypto is trying to connect to this, and it's one of the other cool uses of NFTs. Instead of just trading art or whatever, using NFTs as utility, as tokens that can then be used as real things in the world, like offsetting carbon. You buy an NFT, and I don't know how all the logistics will work, but there's some really cool stuff happening out there that is beyond just fancy JPEGs in the NFT world.
Mm-hmm.
Which reminds me, that's so before we went on air, Brianna and I were talking about just this whole case for crypto. It's a book that I'm thinking about writing. It's like, what is it going to take to have more people understand crypto as a force for good, which is kind of, this I just think crypto is a force for good, and it goes way beyond just money and investments. And it's these kind of things, that I think if people understood them more, and it just kind of dawned on me, Brianna, that maybe part of the reason that more people don't understand crypto or aren't in love with crypto is because it is pretty confusing to even talk about. Like, you can tell, like, I've been spitting out all this stuff. I don't really know the mechanics of this NFT thing, so it's hard for me even to explain. And I'm sure most people are like, what the hell is he even talking about? And that's the part of the problem, is it is complicated in a way. But like, if you can just take the part that I'm saying and even fantasize or think, the possibilities of, if because of blockchain and the fact that now an NFT, which that word doesn't really matter, but it's the fact that you can tokenize and put on the blockchain this token that can be used in the real world to help climate change. I mean, just envision that mechanism, whatever, no matter how it works, isn't that a good thing? And that's what I wish more people would understand, that it's more than just an investment. What do you think?
Part of what we were talking about before was that there's like this missing piece for people to understand. And Scott, you're the one that brought it up, that in the United States, we don't really focus on this kind of stuff unless we have to. There's people that do, obviously, like you and I, and people who definitely do. But there's the majority of the people are just going along about their day. They're not focused on this until they have to be. And that's where I think that there has to be, like, right in front of them, major disruptions in their life for them to be able to take this on, right? That's why these second, third world countries are like, okay, we've been fighting for ever, and we just want this to be able to have, like, access to a bank. We just want to be able to have something. And so they get it. And they're just, like, jumping on it, places like Nigeria, El Salvador. And then we are here. It just doesn't go into our scope because it doesn't have to.
Right. We've got our debit cards. We've got our credit cards. Everything is digital. We can just walk to the bank. Our financial day to day, it's like we don't see a problem. I mean, really, right? And so, but yeah, like in the third world countries where they don't have banks, where their currency goes up 1,000% or whatever. For them to be able to have an asset like Bitcoin or even a stable coin or anything that they can use as the store of value that isn't going to just deflate or inflate, excuse me. They get it. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. It's like they get Bitcoin, they get crypto. It's like we don't have to really explain why it's so awesome. But in the United States, a lot of people are like, what is it? Why do we need Bitcoin? I don't need Bitcoin. Or if they do, all they think of is, oh, I can invest in it and make $1 million, or it's
Totally.
like digital gold. It's like, even the digital gold thing is yeah, okay, I kind of get it. Like right now, a lot of us, including me, I'm storing my Bitcoin for the future. I'm not necessarily spending it or trading it or anything like that. I'm using it, I guess, like digital gold or long-term investments. But again, there is so much underneath it, that Bitcoin can do, that it's the network. That's the other thing that's interesting, Brianna, is when you really understand about networking, and I should talk about this more because I used to be a network engineer. The Bitcoin network is this marvel, is this fantastic thing this is what allows all the beauty and everything to happen. And it's just this underlying network that allows value to be transferred, or anything really, anything that we want to be tokenized and move from one place to the next place without third-party oversight, because the code does all the mechanism of the trust, and that's all it is, and it's just code. And this is the beauty of the network. So, are you still with us? Sounds like your audio went out. Okay, there you go.
Oh, I am. Yep.
Okay, good. Yeah. Anyway, so there's a lot to it. Like there's this whole NFT side to it. There's this whole Bitcoin and underneath it, and what I really think is going to happen sooner than later, maybe in a year, is the Lightning network that will sit on top of Bitcoin which is really fast and really secure still, will then start to do more applications. A lot of stuff that we see on the Ethereum network, a lot of smart contracts, a lot of other types of crypto stuff, a lot of DeFi, I think will start happening on Bitcoin. And that's really interesting because that Bitcoin is the most secure and it's the most stable network, right? So Ethereum is pretty darn good too, and so maybe it'll be a battle. But I think it's gonna be interesting because basically it's just I buy Bitcoin and I hold it over here, and then everything else I want to do in crypto is on Ethereum or other blockchains, right? And some people say, wouldn't it be nice if we just had one? You know, if we had the Bitcoin, we just had Bitcoin, everything rode on top of Bitcoin, and you could, I don't know if that's good or bad. Frankly, right now I embrace all of the crypto technology. But I do wish that it was safer, and that's what we kind of, rounding this back out to regulation. I get it. I get why there needs to be some regulation, some laws, or something to protect us from investing money in mechanisms that don't work, or from people hacking. But not to open that can of worms again. But it just seems to me that what Gary Gensler is saying, just go in and register as security, I don't think that's the answer. It might be the answer. I don't know because I don't know enough specifically about it. But it seems like just like taking an anvil, to crush a little ant or something. It's just like do we need all of that to protect us and to able to flourish in this decentralized finance? I don't think so. I think it's just a little tweak here and there and a little bit more oversight. And if anything, maybe more auditing. I personally wish that more DeFi protocols were audited better so that they literally couldn't be hacked. Or why don't we provide some sort of national, this is probably socialism, but I was just thinking, some sort of insurance, where you've got FDIC insurance for the banking system. Why don't we have some sort of, DeFi protocol insurance? It just seems like there's lots of ideas. I just whipped those out of my head just right now. It's like I hadn't even thought about that before, but it's like it just seems like there's a lot of options that they're just not even going there with. So we'll see. We'll see. All right. Well, do you have any other articles? I think I'm done. Okay.
I'm going to save my altcoin. I think that we'll go into that. I'm going to save my altcoin for the next one.
I got some memes.
Show really quick. Yeah, let's go to the memes. I was actually up all night or like super late looking at memes. I had a lot of funny ones and I forgot to add them in and I couldn't get them. I had one that I will show and it's not the best, but it does pertain to exactly what we're talking about today. So if I can get to it.
There you go.
Let's see. Give me just a second.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, put it at the bottom of my Coinbase. Yeah, once you get going on memes, it can be really hard to stop. I don't know if you can see this very well.
Oh, scroll up a little bit further. Oh, there we go. Yeah.
This is the government banning Bitcoin. It's a little bit dark.
I can see it. Something's closed. Oh, sidewalk closed. Yeah.
And
that's
sidewalk closed, but you can walk right around it. And I think that
I like it. I like that one. All right. Here's mine. How comfortable are you with risk, crypto investors? Camping out on a cliff. I don't know why. I just think that's so funny. It's like, first of all, yeah, you got to be some pretty crazy to be doing that. I don't know if Bitcoin or if crypto is that seems that risky to me. I just have a whole bunch in a row here. Do you have some more? I'm going to pop back
I
to you.
don't today. I'll have
Oh,
to.
all right.
Yeah, I
I don't know.
messed
I'll
up
show a
there.
few of these. It's like I don't know if these are good or not. I like some of them. Let's see.
That one
Um,
sounds familiar.
I
Very
didn't want a full
familiar.
time job, so I went full time into crypto. Now I work 24/7. I mean, this is kind of what we're talking about. It's like crypto is confusing, and I know that's that's the probably the number one thing or number two thing why more people don't get into it. It can get complicated, and it is funny because you can put a lot of time into it. You're all happy about it. It's like, yep, now you're into it, working your butt off. 30K Bitcoin. Yeah, I always like these ones.
I saw that one last night. I loved that
Yeah,
one. So
yeah.
true. So true.
I mean, we're all invested in it. Let's see. Oh, this one. Let's see. The Fed should pivot. The Fed should raise rates. Me buying BTC, thinking the Fed shouldn't exist at all, and that one's kind of stupid. It's like, yeah, okay, fine, but it does sort of show that we can all get wrapped up in all this crazy stuff about the Fed and about interest rates and about this, and it's just sometimes, and I feel like I'm doing this. I'm just dollar cost averaging into BTC and ETH. It's like
Hmm.
I really
Totally.
shouldn't even care about all that stuff. Yeah,
Yes,
this
I'm right there
this
with you.
I like this next one. So my daughter tells me that you're a Bitcoiner. Is that right? Actually, sure, sir. I'm all in on XRP. Then here's Dad. You have 10 seconds to get the fuck out of my house.
Let
I love.
me just interject there because I had this experience this morning.
No
My
way.
5-year-old son was in the back of my car, and usually he doesn't get to play games on the way to school. But I let him play Roblox this morning, and
Yeah.
he's always like getting really into it. And he was like, I heard him say, Doge. And I said, what
Doge.
did you
Oh
just
my
say?
gosh.
I'm like, am I hearing things? I was like,
Yeah.
what did you say? He's like, Dogecoin. And I was like, how do you know what Dogecoin is? He's like, I know what Dogecoin is. I was like, son, we're going to have a talk. Have you
That's
heard of
funny.
Bitcoin? Have you heard about Bitcoin? Because we're going to really have to, we're going
Oh
to
my
have to get
gosh.
you right here.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Now he was playing the game. What did the connection have to do with Roblox? Do you know, or is he
It
just?
must be something in the game. There's a lot of crypto talk in the games
Oh,
that he
okay,
plays. And I go over charts and stuff with him just to get him familiar with what things mean.
okay.
And he's really good with it. But yeah, I hear it all the time. I'll hear them talk about cryptocurrency. I'll just hear cryptocurrency type things in their games. Like there'll be somebody narrating.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's just a whole world. It's a gaming world that
yeah.
he's in. But yeah,
Well, it's good.
it's in there.
Yeah, well, it'll really perk your ears up instead of calling it Dogecoin, he calls it a shit coin. Uh
Exactly. I was
oh.
like, we're gonna have to like really have a talk about this because it's really
this
important.
this guy. I was speaking of this guy. Let me shrink this down a little bit if I can. It's like Pepe or whatever his name is. It's too damn like. This was last week. This we should have showed this last week. ETH holders. I mean, people were happy with ETH last week, and I don't think I have this, but I did see today a Pepe. This is Pepe, I think, right? Isn't this the guy, the frog named Pepe?
I don't know.
I
I'm
think
not
this is.
aware.
I think this is Pepe, and he came out with a new coin. There's a Pepe coin today, and shoot, I thought I had that because it went up
Oh,
21,000. It went up twenty one
okay. Yes, I
thousand.
saw this. I did see this.
It went up twenty one
Uh,
thousand, and it's actually a cool article. Let me see if I do have it because there was something really interesting about it. What was that?
are you going to talk about the
Oh, here it
person
is.
who, what their gain was?
What their game?
There
No.
was one person who gained like massively, which if you
Well,
don't touch on
yeah.
it, I'll those figures.
Well, so here it is. It says Pepe went up 21,000. But here's the interesting thing about it. It says the meme coins, la la la. See, Pepe is based on the Pepe the Frog, and there were 420.60 trillion tokens. And it went up. And here's the thing. So this guy, one guy paid 250 for 5.9 trillion Pepe tokens worth $2 million, and it said these guys might be millionaires, but they can't sell it. Right? I thought this was fascinating because the tokens liquidity pool is just 3 million. So there's not enough liquidity for them to sell. There's no buyers, right? And sellers. So ETH is trading a daily trading volume of 775 million. There's only 3 million total in this Pepe. So what they're saying is that they can't cash out because if one person tries to cash that out, it'll drag the price down for everybody. So most of these people, I don't know what's going to happen, but I think this is fascinating. I got to actually watch this to see what happens because they can't get their money out. They think they're millionaires on paper, but will some of them actually make a lot of money, or will it all, because no one can get it out, what will happen? I don't know. I find that really interesting.
I don't understand that. I just don't understand, I guess. I mean, I
Yeah, I
guess there's
think.
no liquidity, but how does that? I
Well,
don't
think about.
understand.
Yeah, this is a good. I've been actually really thinking about this lately in DeFi. So go, and this is the thing. That's why I have to get you into a liquidity pool because I think getting into a liquidity pool really does help you understand crypto in a little bit deeper way because that is a market maker. So all the dexes right out there, you've got to have a buyer and a seller. So think about this was an example when USDC depegged. I was starting to figure out why the hell would a stablecoin that's backed dollar for dollar depeg? And what I realized and just kind of looked at it in deeper was that every exchange, decentralized exchange, whatever, is still a market, right? You've got sellers on one side and buyers on the other side. And basically you say, look, I've got this coin, I want to sell it. Who wants to buy it? And you have to have enough people that are willing to buy it at whatever price. You're like, hey, I want to sell this at, a dollar. I want to sell my stablecoin for a dollar. Someone has to be able to buy it for a dollar. And what happened was during this depegging, people were worried that USDC was having a problem, that it had a whole bunch of coin or their cash reserves in Silvergate Bank or Silicon Valley, one of the two. And they're like, hey, I'm not willing to pay you a dollar. I'll pay you 90 cents. And then that's how the market works, right? And so if you think about it like that, now you've got these Pepe coins, right? So you've got all these coins, and you've got a few people that have got these coins, but there's just not enough people in it yet to have enough people to say, okay, I've got 2 million. Well, who's going to buy 2 million of the Pepe coin? Nobody wants to. They're like, this is shit coin. Now that's because there's a few people, but there's not enough people that are in the system. There's not enough liquidity in there, which is basically just enough people willing to buy and sell this token. And so that's why they're saying like ETH has 750 million transactions that are happening because there's so many people that in there that are willing to buy and sell it at whatever little price differences. So that's basically what it is. I don't know if that helps, but that's why I hadn't thought about this in the case of these shit coins, basically, especially like this, because like there's no real reason to buy this coin other than you think you might get rich. And so there's enough of us that are like, I'm not going to buy this. There's only a few people that are willing to even get in here. And yeah, it was easy to buy the tokens. Now they got to sell them. And first of all, well, we know that if there was one buyer or two buyers and they were able to sell it, the price would drop drastically because there's just not that many people in there, right? So if you've got millions and millions of people, that's why Bitcoin, people can sell millions of dollars of Bitcoin and it won't drop the price very much because there's so many people and so much Bitcoin out there, right? So if you've got this token and that's why total value or total it's TVL, total volume locked. Yeah. TVL, total volume locked, is how many assets are in there, like how much is the total pot of available token, right? So this might even say what the total volume is. I don't know. 3 million, right? So 3 million is really very, very low for all of these. So if there's this guy has 2 million worth. There's only 3 million total. So there's no way he's going to get his money out of there because there's just not enough people on the other side to buy it. That's kind of what it is. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Now, obviously, and I didn't follow this, but that's why it's interesting that I saw this guy peeing on Doge and Shiba. But those coins did have enough people in them. Enough people got into Dogecoin where people did make millions. So this might take off. And if for some reason there's a lot more people that think, hey, this is my chance to get rich, and they buy into it, the liquidity will go up, and then people can start to buy and sell. I don't think he'll never be able to, I don't think sell it. It'll never be worth 2 million, but he might make some money out of it. He paid 250, right? So he only put in 250. So, he probably makes some money. As this comes down, there's more liquidity and he can sell at some point. But yeah, I don't think he's ever going to get his 2 million out of it. But I don't know. It's why meme coins are just fascinating. They're total bullshit, but there is a mechanism. They trade on a market. Some people will make money, but there's, to me, I've kind of look at them now more like sort of an interesting case study, or like kind of just, okay, that's interesting. Where before I was just like, oh, this just makes fun of crypto, right? It just like, people are just putting coins out there, and they know it's kind of like in the stock market when all the people got in there and tried to buy the GameStop stock, and it pushed the stock way up. It wasn't because that company was a really good company, which is why you should want to buy a stock. You should never want to buy a stock if the underlying value isn't there. I mean, that's like the whole premise of why we have markets. We believe, that there's value to this. And so for me, I believe that the crypto projects have value in the real world. That's why I'm willing to invest in them. Not because they're just a market and I can try to make money from the market. I don't know. But then again, I mean, why do people arbitrage? Arbitrage the same way. It's just like you try to just buy on the spread of 1 or 2 cents, and there's no real value being placed there. It's just I'm making money because I can buy it on one exchange and sell it for a couple of cents on another exchange at a higher price. That's what arbitrage is. So yeah, it's a crazy world. But anyways, let's just go back to the funny picture. It's funny.
Yes, I know. At some point, I kind of agree with you. I kind of went through the thing with meme coins, but I was just like, they just make me so mad. Like, they're just. But then again, it just kind of is what it is. Now I just laugh at it. There's some people who are ride or die for those meme coins, and that's to each their own.
And just to throw this in here, the other thing too is like, this is why I don't understand Elon. It's like I shake my head at him because there's a lot of things I'm like so impressed by him, and then there's a lot of things he does I'm just like, what the hell? And when he put the Shiba face on Twitter last month or whatever it was, or last week, I can't remember, right? You remember that, right? Where I don't know if you log into Twitter and there's instead of the bird, there's the dog head. And right. I'm just like, why did he do that? What's he trying to do other than just laugh at people, make fun of us, like, or just like, just because he can,
yeah.
like what?
And I have a hard time with Elon. I've come to have more respect for him, like a lot more respect for him over the time. But then there's those little things where it just gives me this little like feeling of like I wouldn't just give my trust away to this guy. But
I agree.
I think he's doing some great things. Or at least
I agree.
Like
and it's why I shake my head because I mean, what he did with Tesla and SpaceX, those are world changing companies, and it's amazing. And then the whole thing about Dogecoin and Shiba and stuff, I just don't know what his angle is at all. Like, what's his point? Is his point? I don't know. I can't even fathom what his point might be of why he would want to do that. Like push Doge in the beginning, whenever he did that years ago, and then why he would continue to do it. It's almost like he's still a little kid, in this big grown-up body, and he's got this little the kid that comes out.
Right.
Oh well, we've had some fun today. Let's wrap it up here. So thanks everybody for listening, and thanks Anthony for commenting. And remember, if you're on here, we still got a couple of people that were watching. Come in and say hi to us, and let us know what you want to talk about. We're always open for whatever you guys want to talk about, as long as it's crypto based for the most part. Maybe AI, maybe a little spirituality, mixed in there. Brianna's almost done
Yeah,
with her book. She's got her book coming out. She's almost done. Going through that last editing phase, right?
I do. I am. And oh my gosh, I can't believe because I edited and ChatGPT was such a big help for editing, just punctuation. And I was so resistant, and it became, I was like, wow, I really embraced that technology. Now I'm kind of like, I get it. I was so
Yeah.
resistant to AI before, and now I'm like, okay, now I see why your guys' eyes are twinkling all the time. Really, really helped me. And as soon as I was done with that, I still have a little bit more, but it's pretty much final edit done. I was like, okay, time for crypto. And I haven't put time into that. And I've just loved this last week because I've been like back on crypto, listening to things that I was listening to before, kind of just really diving back in like I was before and getting excited about that. So,
Are
which is
you?
always there. It's a part of my daily life, but I
Yeah.
got
Are
to really
you?
dive
Can you? Are you going to reveal the title? Can you reveal the title to us?
I'll do a reveal. I'll do a reveal. I'll show the cover. Let's do that next week.
Okay.
And maybe we'll bring all our top altcoins like we had talked about. Maybe we can bring those next week.
Okay.
Go into some altcoins a little bit. So yeah, for everybody who's here today, make sure you come in next week. And yeah, thanks again, Anthony, if you're still here for chiming in. We want to hear from you. And it makes it fun when we get to hear what you guys are thinking and your thoughts. So keep it up. And yeah, I look forward to next week. And yeah, thanks everyone.
All right. See you, everybody. See you next week. Bye.